Hello there, welcome back. Now, those people who kind of follow my work, let's say, and are used to the sort of things I proselytise about, will be quite familiar with my dedication to standing up for women's rights and women's safety and the concerns I've raised about some of the attitudes that other cultures may have. I mean, we've got problems of our own. We don't need to be importing others, quite frankly. I've been, I think, quite bold about some of these things in the past. Well, a story popped up in front of my producer Ted's eyes this morning, and he thought, this is one for Alex, and quite right he was as well. It transpires that a Birmingham mosque has been referred to a charity watchdog over their prayer leader's misogynistic comments about women. Misogyny, you say? Oh, we're going to have a Me Too movement against this mosque. No, this isn't just misogyny. They've been referred to the charity watchdog after his imam said that women have an obligation to have sex with their husbands. They must make themselves available sexually at all times and not be career women. Their number one responsibility is to follow, obey and respect their husband. No wonder Andrew Tate's converted to Islam. Meanwhile, over in Afghanistan, if you want to know what they want to be getting up to over there, the Taliban has now banned women from hearing other women's voices. Hearing other women's voices in the latest attempt to impose a hardline version of Islamic law. So that really is some pretty gruesome stuff going on in Afghanistan, some less gruesome stuff going on over here. But what is the bigger picture holistically? Let's speak now to Momus Najmi, who's a writer and commentator and indeed an ex-Muslim and speaks quite passionately and candidly about these things. Momus, it's great to have you on the programme. This particular preaching in the mosque in Birmingham, it's inflammatory. I don't think it's got any place in Western society. It's certainly alarming when it comes to integration. But in your opinion, how widespread is this sort of attitude?
It's pretty normal. I mean, I would say he has said nothing that's not in Islam. So if the charity is actually, referring them to the watchdog, what they're actually doing is referring Islam itself to the watchdog, because he hasn't said anything controversial. This is a known thing. This is a customs, and that's how you're supposed to follow. It's within the Quran. It's within the Hadiths. So, our understanding of Islam is kind of funny because we think that the moderate Muslims that we meet are actually Muslims, whereas this imam is actually just saying what's in the Quran.
I mean, there'll be plenty of moderate Muslims out there. I can think of a number of them. There's that little chef, the baker girl with a hijab, and then you've got Yasmin Alabai-Brown, the commentator and journalist, various journalists at the BBC, lots of people in the medical profession, examples of many Muslim women who go out and indeed are career women. Do you think it's fair to say that they are not Muslim?
I mean, I think so. Where he went a bit off is saying like they shouldn't be career women. I think so. The customs in Islam is usually your family sort of comes before anything, but they take it a bit to the extreme. So the concept within Islam is that man is not just a protector; he's a protector of women, right? So how they interpret that is they become the owner of women in that way. Right. So if the husband has not allowed or is not allowing his wife to go and have a career, then she should not have a career. And in the same way, it goes with having sex as well. I mean, there's a very famous hadith, well-known hadith there that if a woman says that refuses to go to bed with her husband and the husband goes angry, go to sleep angry, angels curse her all night. Right, and this is from the Prophet. It's bizarre to us, obviously, but it's funny as well to me because these are the things that ex-Muslims have been pointing out, that the reasons why Islam is misogynistic. So I'm pretty glad actually the charity is referring the imam, because to me they're actually referring Islam as a misogynistic religion to the watchdog.
What people in this country would, I think, quite rightly say is we, as a country, we should integrate. If you're in this country, you live by Western mores. You have freedom to practice a different religion. I think that it should be absolutely fine. But there is a conflict here if certain mosques are sort of making these particular statements. What I want to sort of understand is, how widespread this is. Like you said, a lot of people, particularly say in the professions, when they are exposed to practicing Muslims, they will be, if you're a doctor and you're working with another Muslim doctor, if you're working at the BBC, one assumes that a lot of people therefore are sort of more moderate Muslims, more Western leaning. Do you think do you think that that's probably the case? And what do we do about those particular mosques that may be there as a poison in society, spreading messages and giving teachings that go completely against our Western liberal freedoms?
So, well, there's two things, right? So what is said in theory is not usually done in practice. So if they are saying that, as is in Quran, the wife cannot deny, sex to her husband, there are conditions like if she's sick or she's menstruating, they're charitable with that. But it might not be exactly done in practice in the same way. But the thing is, if we are saying that Islam has the freedom of religion in the West, then in a way they're allowed to then say these things because this is part of their religion, right? And this is where we get stuck. So if we're going to have Islam as a religion without any restrictions, without any regulations, then that is the reality of Islam. And we might say that the moderate Muslims or the Muslims who are engineers, doctors, or whatever might be, or even like non-doctors and engineers, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be educated to be a moderate person in that way. If they are not going to practice it, that's up to them. So in a way, you have to be a bad Muslim to be a good Western, citizen. So there is a huge conflict, and it comes from the religion itself. It's not extremism. Sometimes we conflict Islamism with Islam, and we say, oh, it's the Islam's problem, but it's actually not. It's Islam's problem, but it's actually Islam's problem.
It's
right?
It's a fascinating. Yeah, but Momus, I'm going to have to say a thank you there because it's almost the end of my show. But it's a really interesting conflict that Momus there has just outlined, which is what it says in Islamic text, what it says in Western freedoms. If you say there's freedom to practice a